You probably feel like Easter is over, but here at church, Easter lasts for 7 weeks. And so we get yet another story about the resurrection appearances of Jesus in the Gospels. This one is taken from John chapter 21, verses 1 through 19. It's rather a long reading, but a very good one, and so I would invite you to listen with fresh ears to whatever might jump out at you in this reading from John 21, 1 through 19. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, also known as the Sea of Galilee. And he showed himself in this way. Gathered there were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 of the other disciples. Simon Peter said to them, "I'm going fishing." They said to him, "We'll go with you." They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, have you no fish?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it, and they were not able to haul it in because there were so many fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard this, that it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far behind, only about 100 yards off. When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire was there, with fish on it and bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish that you have just caught." So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. And though there were so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come, have breakfast." Now none of the disciples dared to ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew that it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the 3rd time that Jesus appeared to the disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the 3rd time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the 3rd time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you used to fasten your own belt and go wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will fasten a belt around you and take you where you do not wish to go." He said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. After this, he said to him, "Follow me." May God bless to our understanding this reading from God's holy word, and to God's name be glory and praise. Follow me. What a masterful way to end the Gospel of John. It's brilliant, it's powerful, it's moving, and like all the best endings, it harkens back to the beginning. Did you notice that? With the call that Christ issued so long ago to those fishermen of old who are about to return to their old ways now that it's all over, right? They're going to go back and go fishing. They're going to go back to their old life. And then Jesus turns up on the beach again and says the same thing again at the end of the book that he said at the beginning. Follow me. Follow me. right there on the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias, possibly the very same beach. The great drama of Jesus' earthly life ends with his most urgent words, words that he still speaks down the ages to anyone who has ears to hear them. Follow me. That's a great way to end the book. Roll the credits. The music gathers into sort of a spine-tingling flourish. The camera pans out slowly. But no. This is John we're talking about. He has more words. John's got more to say here. In fact, John tries to end his book 3 times. He's got 3 very distinct endings, and it only takes with the 3rd try. He couldn't decide which one he liked best, and so he just put them all in, all 3 endings. He ends the book back in chapter 20, verse 31. He ends it again right here where Jesus tells Peter to follow me. And he ends it a 3rd and final time in the next chapter in verse 25. It's like when we used to go to the symphony, my family. And you would always think it was over. And I would be making for those glass exit doors like a bird. I was ready to get out. Who needs 21 violins? I do not need 21 violins. I like chamber music, yes. Symphony, not so much. I was ready to go, but nobody else was moving because they all knew that it wasn't really the ending. There's going to be more. They're going to come out again and they're going to play more stuff. The ending is never the ending. They're always going to play one more short song. John is like that. He keeps rushing back on stage to take another bow and say a few more words. But the Gospel of John is a poetic work of art. And I believe that he's making a point with his 3 endings, his 2 epilogues, if you will. John is telling us that the ending is never the ending, especially because the ending harkens back to the beginning, doesn't it? I might just be in funeral mode this week, but it seems to me that the ending is never the ending. The story of our faith, the stories of our lives continue with their discoveries, their adventures, their journeys, their learnings, their callings. Even when the end seems close, the call continues. Follow me. Come see what I've got for you now. Follow me into tomorrow. When you're young and independent, and the whole world and all of life lie ahead of you, when you're middle-aged and preoccupied, all caught up with work and family and reputation and career, and when you grow old, as Jesus says to Peter, when someone else dresses you and takes you where you don't want to go, the call to faithfulness and the caller are still the same. Follow me. Follow me into the next thing. It's kind of fun when you think something is over and then you find that it's not. Some songs do this. They'll end for about a second or 2 seconds, and then they'll start up again and play for another 5 or 6 seconds. I don't know what that's called, a reprise. Of course, you don't like it if a sermon seems like it has ended and then just keeps going. But those Star Wars movies, they keep making another 3. They keep digging from that well or from that gold mine. I remember as a child, the first time I read The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. I don't think any child could read that book nowadays because it's written in that old Elizabethan English that you only knew how to read if you grew up with the King James Bible, the these and thous, the old version by Howard Pyle in Elizabethan English. Robin Hood was the first book that made me want to go live in the woods. For that reason, I took it with me and I read it a few summers ago when I did the 70-mile Laurel Highlands hiking trail. But as a child, when I finally got to the end of the book, I found a word that I had never heard before called an epilogue. G-U-E at the end, epilogue. And the epilogue was a longer ending. And of course, the stories of Robin Hood were merry. They were merry adventures, just like the title promised, the merry adventures of Robin Hood. But there in the epilogue, the narrator said something different. The narrator begged me not to go any further. Unclasp my hand, sweet reader. Journey with me no more, and let us part ways with a hearty farewell. For if you turn the leaf of this volume, I must needs tell you of the breaking up of things. But the best way to get a kid to do a thing is to tell them not to do it. And so you just have to turn the page and read the sad, longer ending, the epilogue, the second ending to the merry adventures, where Robin Hood gets murdered by a nun. It is a terrible ending. And you think I really should have unclasped his hand, like he said. Endings are hard. We've had some endings here recently. Endings are hard, but does anything really end? Old feelings, old longings, old resentments, old fears. We often think a thing is over only to discover that it's right there where we left it, just waiting to be noticed again, years, decades later. Old loves, old desires, old joys that we haven't known in years. When the kids move out, sometimes they come back, right? You never know when they're going to come back. They're never entirely over, are they? Other things have rushed in the interim to take their place, to push them backstage for a while. We stop seeing them quite so much, and we assume that they're a thing of the past. But as that wise novelist William Faulkner once said, the past is never dead. It's not even past. And so Christ says to Peter in this vision at the lakeshore, right back where it all started, when you were younger, you did what you wanted. The day's coming when you're not going to do what you want. You're going to do what other people want. But even then, follow me. Whatever life stage you're in, however you feel about it, follow me. That's always been my first and only wish. Follow me. In age, in youth, and in between. This ending in John does what all good endings should do. With the fish and the bread on the beach, it echoes the earlier feeding of the multitudes, Jesus' fullness for our emptiness. With the disciples' failure to know who he is or fear to ask, it echoes their earlier inability to really see who Jesus is, his presence for our absence. And the most masterful of all, when Jesus asks Peter 3 times, "Do you love me?" does that not echo the 3 times in John that Peter denied him on the night of his arrest? His affirmation for our denial, his yes for our no. These short epilogues to John's gospel bear a powerful echo to the prologue. For John alone has a prologue where it says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it." Faith shines in the darkness of doubt. Strength shines amid the darkness of our weakness. Resurrection life, everlasting life, shines amid the darkness of fear and death. And see, the story ends exactly where it began, on the beach, with the same command, "Follow me." All of which seems to be meant to say, there's just no end. There's just no end. Even after you've grown old, even after you think you've got nothing left to do or to give, the story does not end. In fact, somebody told the story this morning, it's not in my notes, about Dottie Carter, whose funeral we did yesterday, and how when she was too old to help decorate the church for Christmas, she would sit and fluff the bows for other people to put on the trees. Always finding a way to be of service, always finding something to do. In life and in death, we belong to God. And the gospel writer John at least seems to imply that this business of following Jesus never ends. It doesn't end with age, it doesn't end with death. we get to do it again and again and again, and to rediscover its joy in new ways, in different phases, different periods of our lives. Let me ask you this. If you had known what the years were going to hold for you, would you have done it anyway? That is a serious question. If you had really known how much it would hurt to lose a person, would you have chosen love in the first place? For love surely is a daily decision that we make in addition to everything else that love is. If you had known how it was going to hurt, would you have done it? If you had known how demanding your career was going to be, how you were going to take it home at night, how it was going to seep its way into your dreams, even when you're trying to rest and sleep, if you had known that, would you have done it anyway? Or would you have chosen a different line of work where you get to clock out at the end of your shift and be done? If you had known the heartbreak and the anxiety of raising children, I can't ask this one. Would you do it anyway? If you had known. Thank God we don't know what we're getting ourselves into sometimes. Thank God we don't know when we sign on for a thing where it's going to take us. For if we did know, we might miss out. We would definitely miss out on some of our life's greatest joys. Because the joy often springs from the sorrow. They're all mixed up, they're inextricable. Thank God we don't know what our joys will cost us, because we might not have had the courage to pay the price. And yet here we are. Another question, this one's easier. What if? Okay, this is all hypothetical. I'm not saying that this is the way life is. But what if, when you're done with this life, you got to do it again until you got it right? What if that's the way the universe is set up for us? You got to do this life again until you get it right. I'm not saying that this is how life works, like I said. However, I will point out to you that both John and Mark have this circular structure where you end at the beginning. Both John and Mark, the two Gospels that are least alike. Mark is very matter-of-fact, very quick. John is very flowery and very poetic. They both have this circular structure where you end at the beginning. It's curious. What if when you thought your life had come to an end, you woke up and found yourself among your stuffed animals and the picture books in the very first room where you made your very first memories of this world? You'd think you were doing it for the first time, but it might actually be the fourth or fifth. Moments of déjà vu might actually be memories from the last time around. You'd come at it each time with just a little more wisdom, just a little more patience, just a little more grace. What would you do differently next time? And if you do it differently next time, why don't you do it differently this time? Why not change it now? We all like a good ending. But at least the structure of John and Mark implies that there's just no end to this mysterious story, this adventure in following Jesus, these lives that you and I live. There are wonders beyond our imagining. There are truths beyond our dreaming. There are beauties beyond our noticing. But one day, you just open your eyes and you see them. Each moment bears hidden within its depths bits of things that came before, bits of eternity, bits of a future that we cannot yet conceive of. And so what is the best thing we can do amid the complexity of it all? What words of wisdom to live by? 2 words. Jesus' first words, follow me. Not me, follow Jesus. Follow me. Jesus' first and best command, follow me. Follow in his way, which has 3 parts. Living for the things that matter, dying to self, and being born anew again and again and again. It has to happen over and over in these lives of ours, doesn't it? We have to die to ourselves many times. We have to live for the things that matter. Then we have to die for ourselves. Then we get to be born anew, over and over. Follow me. When you're young and immortal, when you're middle-aged and the transience of life is sneaking up on you, when you grow old, follow me. Still follow me. We've had a hard week here at Bower Hill. Many of us are kind of tired. Still, we've got one job in the days ahead, and in this hour. Follow me. It's not over yet. There's still more to do. Follow me. Amen.